Hey guys, welcome back to the Pokemon Unite Climbing Guide. If you're new here, we're all about providing the best strategies, tips, and insights into the world of Pokemon Unite. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new here, so you're not going to miss out on any future videos. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different today. I'm redefining the class roles in Pokemon Unite. So you might be familiar with what we've got, which is our attacker, defender, supporter, speedster, and all-arounder. But I don't think this is a very accurate representation of how the game's dynamics works. So let me introduce to you, I think, 7 classes that this game fits. So first up, we've got the Brawler class. We've also got the Assassin class. We've got tanks, healers, ranged offense, Mage Support, and Glass Cannon. Now I'm going to talk through each of these individually. So the Brawler class works really well with the healers. The goal for the Brawler class is to sustain and be fed at that Rayquaza fight. Okay, as you can see, there are only 4 healers. This is a massively underrated class. This class helps pretty much everything. That's why they've got the highest win percent. If you look at the Unite API data, it's a great class. It enables every player to play better. Right, now we've got the Assassin class. The goal of the Assassin class is you win your lane. Right, you win your lane. Maybe you get your stacks in if you need to get your stacks in, and then you are picking up the ranged offender at the Rayquaza fight. That is your goal, right? Typically, have a look at the ranged defender, right? Have a look at all the classes. Who, outside of the ranged offense, is able to rip the Rayquaza really quickly? Maybe like Dragonite, some of our Brawlers. Okay, that's probably it, right? Maybe the Aegislash. Typically, those are more rare Pokemon. The Pokemon that are going to be in your solo queue lobbies are your ranged offense. Okay, your Assassin, you pick off that Pokemon. Even if you only kill one Pokemon at the Ray fight, you sweep in behind. If you pick off that Pokemon, they're not going to be able to rip the Rayquaza really quickly, and so it's really about minimizing your chances of losing the game, right? Because if you minimize those losing chances, you're more likely to win the game. So that is your goal as an Assassin. You need to win your lane because they're really strong Pokemon early, and you also need to pick off. But that's not saying, you know, go sit in the enemy grass and don't be a part of the fight whatsoever. Okay, that is, be a part of the fight, but don't engage on a Mamoswine. Don't go in with Lucario Power Up Punch and hit a Mamoswine. That's silly. Okay, you engage on that ranged offender, and you need to be aware of that, because if you're picking those Pokemon, that is your job. Okay, that is your job. Right? Tanks work best with the ranged offense. You are there to provide vision, and you are there to sustain. Honestly, Slowbro is like the top tier pick for this, because you've got that Unite move. You can sustain, and then if you use eject button and you see one of those ranged defenders at that Ray fight, you eject and you Unite move it, and that deletes it, right? So you're really doing what an Assassin can do with your Unite move, which is why it's such a top tier pick. But the rest of them, it's all about sustaining and providing vision for your team and making sure you are the one who engages the fight. In my opinion, I think the ones with self-sustain, so it's a Goodra and our Greedent and Lapras, maybe Trevenant as well, they're probably the best ones to use in solo queue, because you need to be able to sustain yourself. You don't have comms with your team that you can use to help keep you alive. Now we look at our ranged offenders. There's always one of these in every single lobby, and I've put Charizard in here because I think Charizard is actually quite a ranged Pokemon. Okay, minus the Unite move, if you've got that Flamethrower and the Fire Blast build, it's pretty ranged. Okay, and it has a lot of presence and it does a lot of damage. So normally in solo queue, it's best to just pick one of these Pokemon. Okay, maybe if you've got, you know, a Glaceon, you could go an Espeon as well. But unless if you've got a nice coordinated team, it's probably best to just stick to one of these and help to support them. Okay, but, you know, normally a competitive team will have 2 of these Pokemon, maybe, between 1 to 2, right? There's probably always one of these Pokemon on a team, unless if there's a really unique team that has been built. So this role works really well with the tank. You stand behind the tank and they are providing you vision. Or even if you've got a Brawler and a healer, that's essentially the same thing as the tank. They're going to be providing vision and sustaining. It's your job to back them up in the fight. It's your job to do that big burst damage from a distance. Okay, it's really important. If you're going to pick that Pokemon and not do the damage, you're not doing that job properly, okay? You need to be collecting the KOs, you need to be present, you need to be at objectives, you can't just be off farming the entire game. Okay, it's not Farmville, you have to actually help your team win the game. Let's have a look at our Mage Support. This is kind of a weird class, okay? They're normally supporters, and I've also thrown in Pikachu and Sylveon because they do quite a lot of debuffing. Okay, they reduce the enemy's defenses, or they reduce the enemy's attacks. And, you know, like, for example, Mr. Mime can change the terrain of the field, or Hooper can provide portals. Okay, really, really useful, right? So they do a lot of debuffing, and they do a lot of stunning, right? I think this class, it's quite niche, okay? It's quite niche, and it really depends. For example, Sylveon, if you went Hyper Voice, that would probably be the ranged offender, but I'm going the Mystical Fire and self-sustain build. So honestly, it depends. This class is just really great for supporting your ranged offense as well, because you can change the terrain of the field. It's really great for supporting your brawlers, your assassins, if you're able to debuff the enemy's offenders, so you're able to kill them a little easier, or at least sustain against them a little easier. It's a niche class, but again, in solo queue, this is probably why these Pokemon don't get picked as much, because it's quite hard to fit that role in the team. Okay, and normally with those Pokemon in the Mage Support, will always have an experience share. Same as the healers. If you're playing a Mage Support or a healer without an experience share, minus your Sylveon is probably the only exception. In my opinion, you're throwing, and you're not using that class properly. Okay, you're not getting fed. You're not getting level 13 by the Ray. Okay, that's not the point of running that Pokemon. So just to be very, very clear there. Now, Glass Cannon. Glass Cannon is a really unique build. Okay, these Pokemon have high win percent, except for Absol. Very high win percent, very high skill cap, really hard to use. So if you want to use these Pokemon, you got to practice, you got to grind. Some of the top players in the world use these Pokemon, and they use them really well. Typically, you'll take them into the jungle because you want to get fed, and you want to smash early in that first gank, and you want to steamroll, right? Normally, you're stacking with these Pokemon as well. So it's, I think it's really important to get fed, gank early, win the lane, and just snowball the game from there if you're using those Glass Cannons. And again, at the Ray fight, like, they kind of morph into an assassin at the Ray fight, because throughout the game, it's like they're very much like make or break. You either kill the entire team or you do nothing, and so you can play that really well, and you've got to be careful not to over push, because you want to snowball the game and you don't want to give up the experience. And our last class is a healer, right? Healer's so important. Healer have got the best win percent in the entire game. There's only 4 of them, and honestly, really, really amazing class. They work so well, and just such a good class of Pokemon. I'm blown away by the amount of people who don't play this in solo queue more often. Especially Eldegoss. If you are laning with a Brawler, for example, or an Assassin, and you recognize that they might be decent, it's probably best to just pick Eldegoss, or pick Clefable, or pick Blissey, and support that Pokemon. I think that's a really, really good class. Okay, now as you can see, there's 7 of these, right? There's 7 classes. So you've got to understand what is your role, and how am I supposed to be playing that role? So as you can see here, we got a tier list. We got the Brawler, Assassin, Tank, Ranged Offense, Mage Support, Glass Cannon, and Healer. These are not in any particular order, okay? It's not like left is best and right is worst. I've just categorized how I think the Pokemon are. Now, of course, there is going to be some differences depending on the build that you pick, but I'm going off the most played build. So for example, with Umbreon, I'm assuming that we are running Foul Play Snarl and not Mean Look Wish, because that would put him in the healer category. Wish does quite a bit of healing. Okay, there are 7 of these classes in my opinion, and they're not congruent. Okay, for example, we've got the Assassin is a mixture of all-rounder and speedster. Okay, we've got our Mage Support, we've got a couple of attackers in there, right? These guys do a lot of debuffs and a lot of stunning rather than a lot of offensive damage. Okay, obviously depending on the build, right? Pikachu would go Volt Tackle for our Mage Support. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and hopefully this makes you realize the value of healers. Okay, we've got some support here, but healers make the world go round. These healers have got such a great win percent. If you just look at those supporters and their win percents. Okay, so I'm illustrating this because each of these classes has their own distinct role. Okay, don't think all arounder plays this role. It's more like Brawler plays this particular role. And certain classes complement each other. So the healer will strongly complement the Brawler and the tank, right? Because it helps keep them alive in those fights. Okay, the tank strongly complements the ranged offense because you're providing vision for your ranged your ranged attackers to do quite a lot of damage from the backline, right? The assassins probably don't need a whole lot of support, but the mage support's probably the best for them, right? Your Mr. Mime will, put them in a wall. The Hooper will help get out with portals or give you trick for that extra movement speed, or even unite you, to create a portal for a different situation. So there's a lot of differences here, and I think it's really important to have a good understanding of these roles and how you're supposed to play them. So, for example, these brawlers, they should just be like gunning down, attacking pretty much everything, right? Your brawler wants to get into the fight and have some level of support. Okay, if you've ever played Tyranitar, for example, without a healer or a mage support, you're not really going to have much of a fun time because the ranged offense will just rip you to pieces, right? They're able to kite you. Okay, whereas playing something like for example, your glass cannon. Okay, this is quite a distinct class because they can get in. They have got the potential to kill the entire team or kill nothing at all. So this is a really hard class to play, right? They're class minus Absol. This class has got a pretty good win percent, and they're actually really strong Pokemon, but you need to be able to use them while they've got high skill cap. Okay, especially Leafeon's introduced with the Razor Leaf and Leaf Blade build. Really fun, but again, high skill cap Pokemon. Glass Cannon, how much support could they use? Maybe a bit of Mage support is the best for them. So it's about looking at when you queue into solo queue, right? You kind of want to have a look at these Pokemon and understand their different roles. Okay, the Assassin, their role is to sneak behind and take out the Ripper, right? So if there's an enemy Cinderace and you're playing Lucario, your role at that final fight is to kill the Cinderace if you're playing the Lucario. Or your role, if you're playing Gengar and you're versing a Delphox, like you're gonna get the most value if you just unite and you pick it off. Okay, like really, really useful. Now, obviously, good players are gonna be able to tell that that's coming, and they'll stick with their team, and their team will be able to tell if that's coming. So generally, that's why you want to use the higher skill cap Pokemon, right? Again, some of these builds may vary a little bit, but this is how I see it in one big tier list there. So I'm going to explain a particular gameplay where I'm playing a Brawler. Now my first thing is Lucario is so versatile. I look at the matchup and immediately I say this is a power punch game. Because they've got the Ninetales and they've got the Pikachu, they're going to do so much stunning, as well as the Dragapult's going to be pretty hard to hit with the extreme speed. So I pick Lucario, and I'm definitely going to go Power Up Punch purely based on the matchup. The nice thing with Lucario is that you can pick the move set and keep the same items. Now, I'm opting for a Slow Smoke, and honestly, it's been more useful with Power Up Punch in close combat, but I just think that the full heal at the moment is not doing anything for me, so that's kind of why. Alright, that's pretty much why. So your goal early, right, like we said with our Assassin, is you need to win your lane and you got to get your stacks in. So this is the perfect time to, okay? I think my Eevee is stacking as well, which is no problem at all, but you're aiming to win your lane. So you're going to try and get your stacks in, and remember, don't die, right? So I have my second guesses there. Unfortunately miss out on that farm, but that's okay. But we make sure we don't die and we prioritize getting some stacks and farm in, right? I'm a little bit behind, honestly. You're probably normally about level 5 with Lucario by this stage, but that's no problem at all. So that's your early game plan. Now, because we've got a jungler up here, I'm probably going to play a little bit more aggressive. What I like to do is just Meteor Mash those bees away from the enemy, so they have to overcommit in order to get that farm, right? And then depending on where they're at, you kind of sit in that bush, you look to pick them off. The Slow Smoke just ensures the kills there, unless if they've got an X speed. And then when you get the kills, you're able to get some more stacks in. Right, so now I'm up to 5 stacks. I haven't risked my life for any of these stacks. I've played smart. I've played with my jungler. Of course, if the jungler didn't come up, I would not have been able to do that. Okay, right there, that's a big throw. Okay, I've thrown for a stack. So not good. And then I also got snapback on the power punch. So honestly, that is like the big key mistake right there in the first 2 minutes, is being greedy for that extra stack. I should have just not gone for that farm. Okay, I should have looked at my health and gone, that's probably not the best idea. So now you're heading up back towards this lane, and you pretty much want to make sure that if there's only one enemy up here, you rotate down. Okay, if there's still 2 enemies up here, then, you know, you can kind of stay put for the time being, but you've got to be a little bit aware of what's going on in the bottom lane. Okay, remember, because we got gank support, that means that the bottom lane has had a gank without support, so they're probably likely to, you know, be losing the lane, okay? The fact that their goal zone's still up at this time is they've done really well, in my opinion, okay? So again, not overstacking there, not overcommitting for a stack, right? You're playing it smart, playing it safe. You've got that level 7. There's still 2 enemies up here, so I'm not going to give up all this farm for free just yet, right? I'll probably take what I can, and then we look to engage and try and get the kill here, which we probably will, because Lucario just does an immense amount of damage with that power up punch, and the close combat, especially fully stacked. So we get that last stack in there thanks to the Umbreon playing that really well. And then yeah, we're just looking to put the pressure on them here. Right, we are just looking to put the big pressure on them. Okay, I want to rotate down. I want to look through the jungle, see if I can get anything. Their jungle is still there. Managed to get the buff, which is honestly just lucky. But now we've got the Unite move, right? So I feel very comfortable just sitting in his jungle and looking to pick off anybody who wants to engage in a fight, right? Which is exactly what the Sylveon does. And he just gets caught by the combo, right? Which is, you'll notice that when I hit the close combat, the cooldown of Power Up Punch just goes on cooldown almost instantly, right? So, have played this. Honestly, that's pretty lucky there. Okay, I'm just clicking buttons at that stage, but that Unite move, if you can put yourself in a position to launch it off, you're going to do a lot of damage, because the closer that you are, the more damage you do. So that's your early game, right? We've done really well. We've rotated down. Our team's done well. We've won the top lane. We've won the bottom lane. And that's what your assassin should be doing, right? You should be winning your lane. Now let's talk about the end game as an assassin. We're getting to the last quarter here, right? And that pretty much just means Rayquaza fight. You've got a couple of things to check off here. Make sure your battle items on cooldown. Make sure you've got a Unite move. Make sure you've hit the level you should, right? Lucario or your assassin should be about level 13. So I've put myself in a position to farm up and to make sure I've got those things. Even little things like if you're using a focus band, make sure that focus band is on cooldown, right? Any Pokemon that catches themselves out of position, you punish it, right? That's going to happen in solo queue. Now, we get to this end game here, and I see the Blastoise by himself, don't engage. It's when I see the rest of the team, then I look to engage, right? He's the Pokemon, I've actually missed him, and then I launch that Unite move. You can see that picks up the Ninetales. I got a close combat it, but it's already dead. And then I'm looking to Power Up Punch. I don't hit the Dragapult. He's on full health and he would have killed me. The Blissey keeps me alive. Again, I go for that close combat. They kite back really well. And now I'm looking to hit my Power Up Punch on anything that's left. I see the Pikachu. I quickly hit that. Make sure he dies there. And that's pretty much game over from there, right? So I feel like everyone played their roles pretty well. The enemy offenders did amazing, right? Maybe the difference in that fight was just the Pikachu. Okay, their enemy Pikachu just got himself caught out and then wasn't even a part of that end fight. So these guys, like this Ninetales, a really good player. The Blastoise played really well. The Dragapult and the Sylveon, they played incredible. Like, they were really good players, right? Just the difference that game was probably the Pikachu getting himself caught out. So hopefully this video gives you a good breakdown, and especially the detailed breakdown of how we want to play our assassin. You want to win your lane, and then you want to play that Rayquaza fight as well as you can. Obviously, it's going to be very, very difficult when you're versing good players who anticipate you to dive them and try and pick them up. If you've enjoyed this sort of video, please let me know. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and share with a friend, and let's see what they think, or you might think, of these 7 classes that I feel like these Pokemon fit within Pokemon Unite. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good day, and good luck with the climb.